My name is Beverly Freed. I'm a system operator for the NSS BBS, which is a system that's based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And this is one of my associates, Charles Radley. He's the operator for a system that's based in California. And what we're doing right now with the National Space Society is we're setting up a network of computers. It's volunteerism, activism, of people passing information and messages and mail back and forth. And we're networking with two systems also, and one in Sydney, Australia, and the other one Perth, Australia. We've set those up too. But a little bit of background. One day I just called up Lori Garver and I asked her, how would you like to have a computerized system set up? And so she goes, go for it. So this is what we did. We set up a system, then we tried to see and monitor it. What kind of activity, what kind of demand is there for this kind of information? And it ended up that there was so much activity on the bulletin board system that I then spawned off a second one to offload some traffic off the one in Pittsburgh. Then the next thing we know, we needed to offload some traffic some more. Then I called out, I said, is anybody else interested in putting up another system? And there were other volunteers willing to put up systems. So what we have set up is a system in North Carolina, one in California, one in Pittsburgh, and then two in Australia. And we're looking to also move into Europe as soon as we have some contacts there and some interest there. What we've done is set up a distribution system on this network that we're working with. Instead of going multi-line, as some systems do, so that a lot of people can call in, we're going sort of like a LAN in a way, if you want to think of it as that. We're passing information back and forth every night. I will collect information, hub it out, and then hatch it out to all the other systems and all the other networks. Charles will get it that night. So then the next morning, he has the previous day's news. Any of his users on his system can automatically call up and then see exactly what happened the day before. We also then archive up the material, because we find that a lot of people want back issues of news reports. So we archive up the material and we keep it in the system. And if you want material from something, say, in March of 1990, March of 1989, we'll have it there for you. You can pull that down too. Another thing that we've also done is we have then begun to integrate into Internet. We also, so what NSS has done is we've set up our own domain within Internet. We've had permission to do this. And so now if you want to reach somebody within the National Space Society, they have an Internet address. The domain is nss.org, org being for organization. So what we're doing right now is basically trying to network and couple ourselves with lots of other systems that are available around the country. We can get into the MCI. There is ways of people on Genie contacting us. We can contact back. But the one primary thing about the NSSDS, which is the National Space Society Distribution System, is that we're trying to get chapters to work together. We're trying to get them the same information quickly and accurately. So one of the things that we'd like to have you do when you call into a system is use it regularly. Contact the people who are there. We have conferences for you to participate in. And Charles has some information about PC Pursuit, which is a system that you can use to contact any of the NSS nodes. George, you want to talk about PC Pursuit?
Okay. PC Pursuit, there's a 1-800 number at the bottom of the flyer. I'll explain how that works. Basically, PC Pursuit is good for calling the Pittsburgh BBS, but not for any of the other ones. PC Pursuit is a packet switching network operated by the US Sprint phone company. And it runs a 2400 board, and it allows you to call interstate for $1 an hour, which you can't beat. The only kicker to it is you have to buy a minimum of 30 hours a month, which is $30 a month. That's for off-peak calling evenings and weekends. It's good from 6 p.m. to 7 a.m. and all day Saturdays and Sundays. I use it quite a lot, and that's how I call Beverly Freed's system. PC Pursuit has local access numbers just about everywhere in the U.S. There's probably some rural areas that don't have it, but I live in a rural area and I have access to it. It does run at 2400 baud. Most people these days still seem to be running at 2400 baud. Beverly and I and all the other BBS actually have high-speed modems. Well, Beverly has the Courier HST for US robotics, which is a nice modem. I have a CompuCom B32 BIS, which is 14,000 baud, but my 14,000 baud modem connects with Beverly's at 2400 baud.
They don't talk the same language.
So if we could have, I suppose later, if people are interested in talking about modems, we can explain the idiosyncrasies of the different kinds of modems that are out there. So it's not hard to explain. There are a couple of different kinds. It's just, if you ever want to buy a high-speed modem, you do need to know what you're buying, because there are some capabilities out there. But no, everything's fine at 2400 baud. Every modem connects to every other modem in the world at 2400 baud. It's the universal standard. It's only when you get the high-speed end, you get the and basically that's it with PC Pursuit. It does have a little bit of, well, PC Pursuit enables you to call like about the 40 biggest metropolitan areas in the U.S. Los Angeles, Houston, Portland, Oregon, Hartford, Connecticut, New York, most big cities in the U.S. and Pittsburgh is one of the accessible cities. Neither is Hubert, North Carolina, which is kind of irritating because Durham, North Carolina is accessible on the net, but Rory is one of the exchanges that is not put in. So we don't have the benefit of being able to use Rory start on as BBS. I think that's basically all there is to say on PC Pursuit. Well, let me add one more thing. To actually use PC Pursuit, it's a little involved because there's a logon sequence you have to go through to get into it. And the most convenient way of doing it is to automate it. Most communication terminal programs that run on PCs, just about every one now these days allows you to write script files. So you can write a script that will automatically log you on to the password and the user ID. And then you get you into PC Pursuit net. And then you can call any one of the cities on the net, including Pittsburgh. There are a lot of good BBSs in general out there, but the NSS BBS is a specific network. There are other NSS BBSs out there, but they're not part of the distribution system which we run. We're not competing, it's just a different service.
One thing I would like to add, though, about PC Pursuit is that we really don't sponsor it, nor do we advocate its use, but you might find it very, very useful because not only can you access any of the NSS systems, you can access any system that is available. You know, it is in a city where the services is available. I'd like to pass out some of these flyers here so that you have some information and can see what it is we're doing. Charles, will you take it out?
While you're doing this, just on PC Pursuit, is there any restrictions, you know, within, say, the state or Pennsylvania? Can you still use it within the state?
Yes.
You can use it in state or out of state.
Sprint's a good line, that's one I use, but I'm only at 2400.
This is not the U.S. Sprint company. Yeah, this is not the U.S. Sprint phone network. It's a packet switching network. It's not a voice. It's not a voice system. It's purely digital. Yeah.
Are there other?
Are there other services like that?
Other services?
Not to my knowledge. There used to be another service called
BitNet?
No, BitNet is an actual network.
There used to be one called Connect USA.
It's still around there.
But they went bankrupt. Starlight Connect USA. Well, I procrastinated for over a year of getting a Connect USA account, and then about 6 months ago I called for an account and I was told that they no longer doing business. Okay, I'll be interested in any updates. Is it not Connect America, is it Connect USA? Oh, America Online that's what I'm talking packet switching networks. That's completely separate from things like CompuServe, Genie, America Online, Fix, and even Internet, which are specific nets. You can't call out of those nets. Okay, but they are cross-linked through Internet. Most of the Genie is, America Online is, Fix is, CompuServe is. The PC Pursuit network is not an information service. Okay, Genie, Fix, CompuServe, America Online, they're information services. They provide information. PC Pursuit does not provide information. It just provides a data line. And you call into it, and you tell it you want to connect to a city. There's a list of 5-digit codes. You end up connecting for which city you want. Like ORPOR is Fort Oregon. And you enter that, and then tell you, yes, you connected to Portland, Oregon, and then you just type in the phone number as a local call, a 7-digit call, and then it rings, and you connect, or if it's busy, you get a busy message. One of the nice things about PC Pursuit is they give you 90-second grace time. Okay, so you can call in and connect, and it's there for if the system you're trying to reach is either busy or isn't going to answer. You know, if you realize you're not going to get a connect in 90 seconds, you hang up, drop carrier, and you're not charged for it. But the minute you're staying online for more than 91 seconds, then you're charged for 91 seconds. And I can get a lot of my 5-minute transfers done in less than 90 seconds.
That's the beauty of this.
Yeah.
Yes, Bill?
Does PC Pursuit have any overseas numbers?
Purely contiguous U.S., no Alaska, no Hawaii.
You said it was a minimum of 30 hours a month.
Once you're into a system, whether you use PC Pursuit, whether you dial in directly, we have tried to set up each one of our nodes so that they are similar. In other words, once you've logged on to one, you can find your way through any of them. And so we were calling them sort of like franchises, if you want to do that. I mean, you go into a McDonald's, you know exactly what's there and you know how to find it. And this is the way that we're doing each one of our systems as well. Yes, we've standardized them so that there are, when you log in, you have the same type of information that's explaining to you what the system is. You go through a sequence where you'll find your bulletins, then you know exactly where your file areas are and which message bases you know where to find them. So this helps people cut down a lot of their time if they want to move around from one node to another. They don't spend nearly as much time because there's no learning curve once they've been on one system. One of the piece of software that we have chosen to use is called Opus, and it is held. The copyright is held by a gentleman in Dallas, Texas, and the gentleman is very adamant that this software is not to be sold. He lets anybody use it, as long as they use it in a very lawful and friendly manner. And if he finds anybody selling it, he goes after them in a lawful and unfriendly manner. Wynn is very adamant about this, and we support him in that, because we too look at our systems as being freely accessible by anybody. And so we're using software that is freely accessible for anybody. One of the things that we like very, very much about Opus is that it's constantly updated. As soon as a release is made, then the developers begin looking to improve it. And one of the inroads that Opus has made into BBSing is accommodating disabled. It uses an interface, and it's very seamless, people can't see it, that will work with speech synthesizers. Anybody who's sight impaired, they automatically can turn that feature on, and this Opus will work with their speech synthesizers. And we have a gentleman who is part of the development team who is sight impaired, and he contributes quite a bit to the project. We also have people who are deaf, And so they need color. They need something that'll stand out for them as they maneuver through the systems too. So this is another reason that we like Opus. Another aspect about what we're doing is that I'm also the moderator of the International Space Development Conference, which is a message base, and it's on FidoNet. We happen to be residing in FidoNet. It is not an NSS conference, but there are a lot of NSS people there, and there's a lot of interest about NSS and some of the other organizations on space. There's also sci.space.news, which is a conference in Internet, Usenet, one of the news groups. And we contribute to that as a news provider because we've secured permission from Space Age Publishing to distribute some of their material. And it's copyright protected, but they have given NSS permission to distribute the material. We work with ESA, the European Space Agency. They deliver material to us, and we dispense it back out. It comes through Washington, D.C., it comes to Pittsburgh. From Pittsburgh, then it explodes out to the rest of the country electronically. Canadian Space Agency is also using us for this aspect. ISDC up in Alaska, whenever they have updates on their project, they immediately send it to us, and then we explode it out to the rest of the world as well. So it's not just NSS that is benefiting from the network that we've set up. Opus Development is also benefiting because we tell them what our needs are, and we're very, we drive some of these needs. We also distribute information for other organizations and other groups. So we're trying to network not only NSS members together, but organizations together. And during shuttle missions, NASA will contact us, keep in touch with us. They'll deliver material to us, and then we, once again, explode it back out to the rest of the world. Not that they don't have that capabilities, but some of them don't know how to do it. So this is what we do. And the types of mail that you can find on any one of these systems can be what's called echo mail or conference mail. You leave a message, everybody in that conference sees it and can comment. And I want to warn you thing too, is because there's an aspect about conference mail called flaming. And I just say, consider emulation the highest form of flattery, and let it go with that. There are other types of mail, such as net mail. Net mail is basically point-to-point mail, one person to the next person. And so what you do is you just leave a message, you know the person's address, you send it out to them, and it goes out to them within minutes or overnight, depending on the system. If you don't know what it's like to be on a bulletin board system, I encourage you to get involved in any of the NSS boards, because it'll open up a whole new world of information for you, a way to contact other people. I recently had a friend who I showed him the networks, showed him how many networks that I was on, how many message bases I was using, and the people that I was contacting. And I said, matter of fact, if I want to talk to Marvin Minsky, I just address a message and ship it out. And he goes, oh, if I want to call Marvin, I just pick up the telephone. Well, he lives in Europe part of the year, and it's a bit expensive for him to pick up the phone to call Marvin whenever he wants to. And on top of that, he can't send mail because the country happened to be on a postal strike. So what did I do? I get a phone call from this gentleman, and he's asking me, how does he get involved in this electronic email? So there are definite advantages to being involved in any of the systems, because then you have access to a whole new world. Yeah.
How is it connected to the internet, and what can we do on the internet as well?
It's connected as a mail system on internet.
Just an email to the internet.
Well, news groups as well. Okay, so you have the UUCP email as well as the conference groups, news groups on Usenet.
Yeah, I also carry some of the Usenet news groups through a gateway in Los Angeles. Although it seems to be, I think my gateway is less reliable than Beverly's, because I only seem to get about 30 or 40% of the messages coming.
NSS operates a domain, nss.org. And and we're operating as a leaf node out of the University of Pittsburgh. The Pitt has been gracious enough to give us access, and so we're operating as a leaf node out there. Dave?
I've got a technical question, I don't know if there's an answer to it yet, but is FIDO then considering becoming a full-service internet connection? Like, would they ever go to supporting, let's say, Telnet and FTP connections and actually have internet numbers?
All I could say at this point on that is that we're working on it. We're trying there are a number of people who realize that FidoNet is becoming too large. We're talking 20 to 30,000 systems all around the world connected into FidoNet. And there is a great interest in being more closely aligned with internet.
I think you've got enough members that you can go for a Class A address.
FidoNet does have its own domain within internet.
But you also have to get assigned addresses from the Network Information Center.
Yes. Well, the NIC is what has set up our domain, NSS domain.
Have they assigned actual numbers?
I don't know that they, yes, they have. Let me get those for you, because I'll have to get them from Hoffman from the University of Pittsburgh. Okay.
I can talk a little bit about FTP and stuff.
Can you FTP? Because I can't.
No, well, not for my systems. The FTP and all that, internet has been Unix-based system, okay? Now, FidoNet is an IBM DOS-based system, primarily. Although there are utilities that allow you to run FidoNet on Macintosh and Atari, I think, how to use it. But there is an equivalent FTP on FidoNet called file requester. You do file requests, but normally we don't make that available to users automatically. A user could send a message to me saying, could I request such and such a file from such and such a system, and I'll do it for them.
Yeah, the reason I suggested that is because capabilities for getting information off the internet and on this FTP servers is just exploding. I mean, the Archie servers are even starting to become old habits. The new tools are coming out. And just as an example, what would be interesting to people for space thing is the archive that Ron Balke has up on NASA Ames.
Peter Yee has it. If anybody wants any of the files off that, Peter Yee has been gracious enough to give me a user account on that system. And so I telnet into it, pull the information down, and then I make it available and deliver it to anybody. Yes, sir?
Could you tell us a bit more about FidoNet? Someone just said it's a MS-DOS system. As a user, I'm a Macintosh. So far, my experience is limited to things like American Online and CompuServe. Really, I've had no success in getting into multiple bulletin boards and accessing FidoNet. It's a strange new world. Intimidated and unfamiliar with it.
FidoNet was started by Ward Christensen, and Win Wagner became involved with it. Win Wagner holds the copyright for Opus. And it's basically, two guys got together and they wanted a way to communicate. And so they wrote software. Now they had DOS systems is what they were using. But to make a long story short, within something like, I guess 6 years, it exploded from 3 or 4 systems to, we're talking 20 to 30,000. It's, as a matter of fact, the index on the FidoNet node list has now exceeded the ability of Intel chips to handle it. So what we're going to have to do something with it. So what it is, it's just a group of amateurs who have computers in their homes. They can be Macintoshes. Because what makes a system involved in FidoNet is the software. And as long as the software adheres to the FTSC standards within FidoNet, then you can operate in it. It's no problem. So, but it's just that most of the software is DOS-based.
Yeah, I could talk a little bit more about the Mac, because if you're logging in as a user, it doesn't really matter what machine you're using or software, except that all our files are listed in zip form. There's a lot of straight ASCII text file that you get out of this computer. But if you want to read all the messages, if you want to use the offline mail reader and zip files and stuff, that's an idea. that's the way of going to.
I've been
Zip,
assured there is, but I haven't succeeded.
zip, yeah, there are zip versions for others,
For the Mac.
not for Mac.
Yeah, except that.
There's not called some soft PC for the Macintosh, which allows you to run IBM on Macintosh.
Cheaper if I had used.
IBM.
Pretty much.
Probably, yeah.
Yes, sir, you had a question?
Yeah, I just want to reinforce the way he was answering his question. I think your machine is independent of, it's not important if the board is running on a PC, whether you don't have to have a PC, you can connect with your Macintosh. We have somebody locally who calls a PC-based FidoNet board with a Mac. And as long as your software can talk to the BBS, you can download text files and write mail and so on and so forth. So that's
If
not.
I can't read the zip files, and I've been assured
Yeah,
if
that's
I focus on
different.
CompuServe, but I can't. I haven't succeeded in doing that yet, because I haven't worked at it very hard. They tell me there are zip decoders that work on Mac.
I've not seen one. I don't think Phil Katz has put one up because I've been on Phil Katz's board. He's the one who's written the zip and unzip, and I've never seen one on his board.
I've never seen one anywhere.
Yeah, not for the Mac. No, others, they have them, but not for the Mac.
There, no, that's settled. Bev, I use a local BBS for a lot of our chapter activities. I'm Michael Gilbert with the Metro Orlando chapter in Florida. And we use a FidoNet board in Titusville to do all our local stuff. I don't know if you were at the town meeting last night and heard a lot of discussion about the need to improve chapter communications and so on and so forth. And there's two, I think, principal things that we're kind of coming up out of that there needs to be a better way to transfer the text associated with newsletters so that more chapters can get that material in a computer-readable form so they can stick it, in their newsletters and get that stuff running around. And the other was just the ability for chapters to share information about their activities, what works and what doesn't, and so on and so forth. So along those lines, I have a couple of questions. One is it possible to set up through FidoNet a system whereby not only mail, but a select group of files is routinely transferred?
We're doing that nightly,
Okay,
every night.
and that's something that I'd be very interested in trying to have our local FidoNet operator set up, so that, because in the past, I've tried to get on, your system, and oftentimes this is long distance calls, so on and so forth. I'm not one of these people who grazes endlessly on BBS systems. I get on, get off, and I find if I'm not on, for 60 days, I fall off the user list and so on and so forth. So we need to have a way to get a lot of this information down to the local BBS so that we're not all having to call one centralized facility.
What we're doing, this is funny because it's called tick and hatch, all right? Because originally the idea came out of somebody saying flee because fleas jump, right? So what we have is there's a lot of humor in FidoNet. You have,
Tick.
yeah, with tick, right? So what we're doing is we're hatching files. I hatch a file, it goes to Charles. I hatch a file, it goes to Rory. Now, if Rory is feeding other systems, his system automatically hatches it on down the road, so it goes downstream. But then we have it coming back up too. And there's a way that this system, the software knows who has seen that file so that it doesn't duplicate it. I have been begging for years for these chapters to become involved in this network. I have been begging for their newsletters. They will not put it in ASCII text and put it up to the system so that other chapters can have it. I can't beg anymore. So it's going to have to be, it's going to have to be the chapters going to make this decision. I'm not going to do it anymore.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and that's one of the problems here is that part of it I think is just ignorance of what capabilities are and so on and so forth. But I think that there's some interest in trying to get this kind of information exchange implemented. But it is going to take some effort. I'd like to know more about how we can work it out on a technical basis and what's involved. Would it be possible, for example, for people to leave their newsletter ASCII text on their local FidoNet board, and in the FidoNet system, it's in an area where it's understood everything that goes there gets sent up the chain.
It would have to be a local NSS board, not just FidoNet. There's 40,000 systems in FidoNet, but only like 5 of them are NSS.
Well, That's it.
We're
How do
using,
we- how do we
we're using
turn
the
it-
FidoNet technology, I know what
We're
you're
all
talking
members
about.
of
Yeah, how do we turn, essentially, how do we
It's
get,
a subnet.
right,
It's not
how do we
a
get a local
FidoNet.
FidoNet at SysOp to essentially sign on as part of the NSS BBS?
Would you want to set up an NSS BBS in Orlando, is this what you're talking about?
Well, we've got a BBS operator who already operates a local NSS area for the purposes of local NSS activities, and I'm sure he would be amenable to being part of the network. We just need to arrange that.
We can talk about that later,
Yeah,
yeah.
we encourage systems to join FidoNet, and if anybody's interested in starting a BBS, and if they've already got a BBS, getting it onto FidoNet, we encourage that, and we'll work with you to do that.
Is he a standalone system? In other words, is he integrated in any network at all, this
Is
system?
he in FidoNet?
I know he's FidoNet, other than that, I don't know what else.
He is
He is
FidoNet, okay,
FidoNet.
fine, the
All right, he is
technology's in
FidoNet.
place.
Okay,
You have a question? You have a question.
Yeah, on the subject of newsletters. I'm Bruce Mackenzie from the Boston chapter. We have been submitting articles to our newsletter editor for a couple of years now via email. Most of us use internet addresses and we address it directly to the editor. And starting 1 week ago, we are distributing our newsletter the same way to those who have addresses. This is on a trial basis, but we will be distributing it to people for whom we have addresses. And we'll be glad to pass it on, as we learn more about these other networks.
Well, if you were to send it to Freed at nss.org,
Do you want to exchange addresses at some point in this meeting? Do you want to have everybody write addresses down?
no problem, because I can write them down here and use them, because we encourage mailing lists. What you're talking about is a mailing list,
Yeah, we were
where a particular message is carbon copied.
Right. We were planning to keep our own mailing list manually, but we could do it other ways.
Yeah, free at NSS.org. I've got an internet account, I'm probably going to get an NSS.org.
And we welcome submissions from anybody to our newsletter, articles or
Yeah, because if you're distributing it out on the internet, you're stripping it down to ASCII anyway.
Yes.
This is the way we need it, because for people who have Macintoshes, if the file is small enough, we don't compress it, because we want people, who have Amigas and Macintoshes to be able to have access to a lot of this information.
But we've had it stripped to ASCII for 2 years in the process of putting it together. So all we lose is the logo and the map to the chapter meeting.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Just a brief insight into your lifestyle of a SysOp, or what happens at a local board, sort of, in case you're interested in joining this type of activity.
I've talked with other SysOps, and they just go, why do I do this? But we do. It can be hectic, and I find it thrilling when somebody says, wonderful board, you have exactly the information that I want, keep up the good work. These give you warm fuzzies, and that's what keeps you doing it. It really is. If anybody wants to be a system operator, I will nurse them through some of the pain, because I've been there, and they don't have to bleed as much as I did. I've already done the bleeding. So it's fairly entertaining to be a system operator.
It's very time-consuming.
Very time-consuming, and you do get jaded after a while, because you go, why is this guy fumbling around in this system, and sometimes you just feel short-tempered, but that's the way it is with anything. You need a lot of time, a lot of patience, a decent phone line, and a decent computer. And software, software is all kinds of software out there. There's commercial packages, and there's freeware, and there's shareware.
I had my cable TV disconnected a year ago, but I didn't have time to watch.
You never have to select TV unless you have a dish. Gotta get it.
Well, I'm the one with the dish, so that's what I get. You had a question, okay?
I was going to suggest about that problem with the being on newsletters from all the chapters. Maybe one idea is that if anyone has a scanner, you just get it in print and just scan it, and you have it in text form, and you can visualize it that way and page it.
Well, we have our guy in North Carolina, all right, and he has the scanner. When we get these massive bulletins from the European Space Agency, he gets copies and he scans them in. But it's just a simple matter to take your text that you create on a computer and strip it down to ASCII. And that's all we're asking.
Yeah, we find it's rather very frustrating because the text was originally done in a word processor. Nobody uses electric typewriters, and it's just so damn stupid just to scan something, and then you have to run a $200 character recognition program on it to turn it into an ASCII file. Plus, it's very time-consuming. Rory spends a lot of his time doing that. We scan press releases. European Space Agency send their press releases on paper. NASA has electronic press releases which will stick straight into the net. The European Space Agency press release, we have to scan them and do character recognition. It's a real pain.
And sometimes if it's just a 1 or 2 pager, I'll just type it in because, you know, it's just too much work. And if it's already in a computer, why not just go ahead and strip it to ASCII? Why put it on print and then make us put it back in the computer again? Dale?
Yeah, a couple things might be interesting. One is the nanotechnology shortcut group is going to be doing a newsletter which will be distributed electronic to whoever has the addresses. And it will probably go out, depending on who it is, either ASCII or PostScript. Some will get ASCII, some will get PostScript. First, they have to forget PostScript is in good pictures.
Yeah.
So you might want to check with Chris Peters and get the name of the fellow who's going to be working on that. Another issue is for chapters that may not have their own machine for bulletin board, or somebody just happens to have a machine. There is, I was told last night, an AT&T mail service, which is very cheap. It's like $3 a month, no connect, no charge for incoming mail. They get you on the outgoing mail, 50 cents a piece for small things, $1 a piece for large ones. However, as one fellow pointed out, it's almost trivial to bunch a whole pile of things together, ship them to a Unix machine, have a little daemon running that takes it out of the mailbox, breaks them up, and throws them all out on the network. But, you know, for a chapter, that would be a very good way. If somebody just has a little machine, they've done their word processing, they just dial up AT&T, mail it to NSS.org. Yeah.
There is a variety of ways to do it, you know, so many different ways, and it just depends on, you know, your situation and your resources as to how you like to go about it. Yes, sir?
The question, I guess, back to, well, I've come in and out of the NSS BBS a couple times. I also used America Online briefly just to see, and I think it evolved from the earlier thing. But my question when I went through the connection to America Online into the NSS board, which is still there on that, but I wasn't sure how to operate. I always had the question, does all that membership information remain the same, or should I still dial it individually to maintain my membership status? Because when you come into the, I just never knew if you come into the America Online, if they knew who you are, if you're just some data port plugged in.
Okay, I have no direct connect to America Online, and I do.
There's probably an NSS section.
There's an NSS section on America Online, which is what you are accessing.
It looks an awful lot like the same.
Oh, I think they're posting a lot of the files.
Yeah, they're pulling down, Dennis McLean from Ansky and Anna Mary Cocan from Boston come into my system and they pull down information. And if it's not there, she asks me why I don't have it. You know? So she's very up, you know, and tries to keep everything up to date.
So that answers the question that we should pull down.
She's pulling down from the system, yeah.
Better directly.
You can come directly.
Yeah.
Would anybody be interested in putting up a node?
I have a node. I don't have the address quite yet, but as soon as we get the new hard disk, which should be any day now.
Oh, it's a 200 mega or something like that.
It's going to be a 100 plus.
That's good.
Stacker.
It's
Yes,
stacked,
it will be stacked, yes.
Well, the thing is, majority of our files are either GIF files or zip, and Stacker doesn't compress them. They're already
Worth anything, yeah. But
But it will do some of the text.
It'll help all the executable files.
Yeah.
The text files.
but the Minnesota Space Frontier, which is PC for suitable, 612 area code, Minnesota Space Frontier, 612-920-5566. At the moment, still all limited to 2400 baud. We're working on that one as well. Was wondering what sort of recommendations for beyond 24, B.32, B.42.
I'm not going to advocate any particular company.
All of the above.
The two companies, two types of modems that you won't have problems with would be the Trailblazers and US Robotics. They've been out there for a long time. They have set standards, and quite often people will use them when they test their software. So, but there are other companies, and you say, well, this is a 9600 baud modem. I'm only going to pay $129 for it. Yes, you are. You know,
And you get what you pay.
and you get what you pay for. You know, and when we're talking about a Trailblazer or a US Robotics, we're talking $400 to $500. But it's worth it because you're going to, over a period of time, your connects. We're talking about 90-second connects. There's a lot of material coming through there in 90 seconds.
I could talk a little more on that because I went through the market, but there's 3 or 4 protocols out there. US Robotics has the HST protocol.
Trailblazer has PEP.
Trailblazer has PEP. And there was a company called, there were 2 or 3 other kind of 9600 modems which have died out, basically, like Hayes was one of them. Don't buy a Hayes 9600, nobody's using it.
Hayes is no longer Hayes compatible, if that makes any sense.
And now the thing about basically if we're down to the Trailblazers and the HSTs, as Beverly said, there's one other thing to be aware of, and that's the B.32. The Trailblazer is a proprietary commercial modulation, which is not licensed to anybody, and that PEP will not connect to any other kind of modem 9600 forward. It will only connect to other kinds of modems 2400. Similarly, HST is a commercial proprietary protocol, and it will connect only with HSTs at 9600 forward. All other modems will connect to 2400. And the same with B.32 and B.32 BIS. That's a 9600 forward protocol that's not compatible at 9600 with the other two that will connect to 2400. Now there are dual standard modem versions. HST has a dual standard, US Robotics has a dual standard HST B.32 BIS. Okay, they're like an extra $100 to get the dual standard.
Yeah.
And the thing about the B.32 modulation protocol, it's public domain. It's not commercial. So anybody, see, you cannot build an HST modem in your garage because the design is commercially secret. But you can build a B.32 modem in your garage if you want to. And you will see on the market now an explosion of B.32 modems. And they're B.32 only, which means that in my position I got a Compicom B.32 which Bev has an HST with no B.32, so I connect with her 2400. Rory Starkweather has a dual standard HST B.32 PIS, and I connect to him at 14,400 Compicom B.32 PIS that connects to his US Robotics dual standard and works great.
I wish I'd done this. I just mail ordered the 14.4 B32 BIS.
That's a good one to get.
It's a new company too, or it's new to me, Super Corporation. I know nothing about it.
Excuse me?
Super.
I
They've been around in the paper world for a while.
off camera.
Oh yeah, I've already
I'll
ordered
talk to
it.
you about that later.
Okay.
There are, I was starting to say there are a lot of cheap B32s coming on the market, and a lot of them are not thoroughly tested.
It's the Marco. Well, it's not too cheap.
That's for that price you should get a good one. I've heard some stories about. I must admit I
You got a
haven't
good review in the BBS, man.
Did it?
Yeah.
You have a question?
Well, I was just curious, have you found that most of these modem manufacturers still have the BBS discounts?
Yeah, most, yeah. If you're, especially in FidoNet, if they can find your name in FidoNet as being on the node list and recognized as a system operator, that'll confirm. that's one, one way to go, to
Yeah,
get a discount.
that's the important point. Yeah, most modem manufacturers give you quite a break on the price if you tell them you're running it for a BBS.
Yeah, because what you do is, like you say, it's courtesy of US Robotics, as they log in, and they know that if you're running a BBS, there's people out there buying modems. Yes, sir.
Is there any particular recommendations or things you'd like to see uploaded? Sometimes I feel when I'm in there, I'd like to put something up, but any particular things? I know you mentioned chapter newsletters, but
Yeah, you make arrangements with us. Because we pull down public domain material from NASA's systems, NASA has been gracious enough to give us an account on their network so that we can go in and pull down information and redistribute it. We want to protect the integrity of the information. We don't want people uploading unless there are arrangements. In other words, somebody says, well, I don't have upload privileges, and I go, well, why do you want them? And if they can, demonstrate to me that they have something to contribute, fine, I'll welcome that. I really will. But we want to protect the integrity of the collection.
I don't know if there's any particular areas that maybe you're looking
One
for.
thing you should not upload is copyrighted material that's on the public domain. Generally NSS newsletters are not copyrighted, or if they're copyrighted with the writer and the copyright, they may be distributed by NSS or whatever. That's okay.
Which we do, we have an arrangement with Space Age Publishing whereby we redistribute some of their information. But they have a big notice on there that is copyrighted and that we have permission to do that.
It's like the other thing, people reprint some articles in commercial magazines. Sorry, we can't use it as a legal copyright.
Yes, sir.
Bev, you just mentioned user privileges. Can you kind of go down on what, if any, different levels of user involvement there are in the system? For example, do you have special categories for chapter leaders or newsletter editors? And could you kind of run down what's available and how that works? How you establish yourself as being eligible and appropriate for one of those user levels?
Each one of us treats our users differently. I generally look at everybody as the standard user. If they approach me or leave me mail or give me some kind of indication that they are our chapter member or a chapter leader or have been designated by the chapter president to do something, then I will work out on a one-by-one basis as to what areas that they'll have access to for uploads or even private material. We do have that capability of making something very, very private so that only the chapter people can get into it. Because Opus has a system of locks and keys. We can lock an area and give users the key. And we're going to be running out of time here soon. So if there's anybody who would like to see a demonstration of the system, we're operating a dummy node over in the vendor's room, and I'll be really happy to show you, walk you through it and let you see what's there. As a matter of fact, most of the files database is there too right now. And Charles and I will show you what it looks like and how to use it. So can we adjourn to the vendor's room then?